Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, boys and girls, the art of cinema has always been deemed an immersive experience, but sometimes it just gets taken to the next level. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And, you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm assuming you do because you're listening right now. Please subscribe to the podcast. Hit that old like and subscribe, and find us basically wherever you get your podcasts. We're at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. It's pretty much all good, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, God knows we would appreciate it. Also, we're on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, at, well, you guessed it, In the Seats, for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. Well, boys and girls, on this episode, cinema is about to get immersive in a completely different and wild and surprisingly engaging way, as we're talking about fall. Not the season, but literally what happens when gravity takes over. It is in theaters now, and it is one hell of a ride. It is a very simple premise. Honestly, it's even bordering on a little silly. It's the story of best friends Becky and Hunter, who find themselves trapped at the top of a 2,000-foot radio tower. Like I said, it's a bit of a basic premise. On paper, this movie looks like it's not going to be very good, but the reality is it's a hell of a lot of fun. And it's one of those things that you will just get roped into and immersed in, see it on the big screen, and just get lost in this terrifying ride of trying to survive and not literally fall. I mean, it's, again, you know, when people make films, you know, we get these stories that are very convoluted with plot twists and all that kind of stuff. This has a certain magic to it because it keeps it simple. But that's why it works so damn well, because it's such a simple premise, but it is a believable and a terrifying one all at the same time. And in advance of the film's release today, which, like I said, please go check this out on the biggest screen possible, we had the unique pleasure of talking with the two stars of the film, Grace Caroline Currey and Virginia Gardner, as well as the co-writer and director Scott Mann, about the origins of the film, roughing it, how they got the job, and so very much more. Because, I mean, when you look at the trailer for this, you would think it's green screen or they're all in a studio, but no, they were roughing it in the middle of the desert, on top of a tower, not quite 2,000 feet, but it was still a ways down, and you can definitely feel sort of the punishment that the filmmakers and the actors went through this to sort of give us this incredibly unique ride, which I cannot wait for you people to see. But first off, obviously, go check out Fall, which, if you're in Canada, is from our friends over at VVS Films, or if you're in the States, it's from our friends at Lionsgate. But first, enjoy our talk with Grace and Virginia, and then with Scott, because between you and me, they're pretty good ones. It's a double episode, but it's our Fall episode, we're going to embrace it. So check out Fall and check out these conversations, because, like I said, they are pretty damn good. Now, I mean, obviously, congratulations on the film. I mean, I hope your director didn't make you go method on this, because I swear to God, I watched a screener and my heart was in my throat. I was on the edge of my seat at home. For both of you, like, walk me through sort of your initial reaction, like, when you got to read for the material and see this story.
I mean, we're both looking at each other.
Grace, go ahead. You go ahead.
I got really excited about the physical element of how I was already kind of imagining the stunts as I was reading it, and the survival aspect. Also, the fact that we are pretty much in one location the whole time on that platform as an actor having one location where you can't map mentally, oh, I'm in a different room, this is where my character is at emotionally, felt really exciting and challenging to try to be like, okay, I'm gonna map this out on a piece of paper because I won't have any change of scenery to tell me where I'm at, what day it is. That felt really exciting. But when Scott told us that he wanted to do most, like all of it practically, I'm such a geek and nerd with movies and old movies. I was like, I don't know if I am capable of doing this, but I want to. I'm in. I'll make it work. I want to do this. So, I mean, that was my reaction. Ginny?
Yeah, I mean, my palms were sweating reading the script, and I was like, if I'm having this kind of physical reaction now, the movie's going to be exciting. It's going to excite people. And yeah, I mean, when we found out that we were going to be filming this practically, it's not CGI, it's not green screen. We were in the desert on a 2,000-foot mountain, and they built a 100-foot tower on top of that. So we were actually 100 feet off the ground filming this thing. And just the physical challenge and the mental challenge of being dropped from 100 feet and having to get past that and get past the mental block of allowing yourself to be dropped from those heights.
Yeah.
It was an incredible challenge, and it lent itself to what ended up being a really thrilling, wonderful film at the end of the day.
Now, I mean, I guess that leads into my next question. Ginny, I'll start with you. But I mean, how do you sort of stay at 11 the entire time? Because obviously when things turn, like you're at one emotion, you're at 11, and you're like, you've just got to maintain that thread. How do you as a performer sort of keep that energy up?
I mean, filming it practically helped so much. We had 60-mile-an-hour winds in real life. We had thunderstorms. We had a flying ant infestation at one point where we couldn't, there's scenes in the movie where if you look at the back of my head, you can see the ants that have like burrowed into my hair. I mean,
oh no.
We had so many crazy elements working against us in real life that it worked for us in the film, and that it kept us on edge, and it kept us in our bodies and in
Fight or flight for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was exhausting.
You'd say the same? You'd say the same?
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, I think actually what was kind of challenging, because you're in that heat and you actually are being drained of your life every day.
Yeah.
There were quite a few times where Scott would kind of be setting up the scene where it's like, you've been waiting for hours, you're sitting on this tower in the middle of nowhere, it's so hot, you're so tired, you're dehydrated, and Ginny and I were just like, we're there. We're tired. Also, Scott's directing us from a bullhorn all the way down, yelling up at us, and we're like, what did he say? Okay, cool. Here we go.
With a portable fan and plenty of water, right? Yeah.
I don't think we had a portable fan up
No,
there.
but he did. He did.
Oh yeah,
he did. He was great. He was chilling.
Everyone was in it though. Everyone was roughing it. Oh my gosh. The sun.
Yeah, it was not a glamorous shoot. We were out there in the desert. It was rough.
The bee stings. Oh, it was, yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, like inside all of this tension and drama, there is actually ultimately a kind of positive message about sort of conquering and overcoming your fear. And I mean, but it does, obviously this film does it in such an extreme way. And I mean, I'm kind of curious for both of you, has this experience maybe helped you overcome any fears you might have? Ginny.
I mean, I think for me, it was the most physically taxing film that I've ever been a part of. And I think what it helped me overcome was, I was never exactly great at sports as a kid. Like I would get picked last on every sports team when I was younger. I've never been like an athlete per se, but doing a film like this, when you are so physical and doing all of your own stunts, I just think I proved to myself that I was capable of doing such extreme physicality and really enjoying it. And so it definitely ignited something in me of like, oh, I want to keep challenging myself physically and see what else I'm capable of. And doing my own stunts, it was so much fun.
Yeah, she's doing this interview on a mountain right now.
Yeah. I'm still at the top of the tower, actually. I never left.
I can't get her to stop. She won't stop.
Won't stop. Got to keep challenging myself.
To what Ginny said, like for me, acting wise, this was my first time being in pretty much every single scene, which is a lot of mental work, I would say, for the prep and just like showing up every day and being prepared and emotionally on. And I'm actually a little bit more introverted, so it was pushing my energy. And when we wrapped, I kind of sat and just went, wow, I think I'm capable of a lot more than I realized, because I definitely came up to my boundaries, my energy limits, and pushed past them. And so it's been really empowering to kind of think back on our time in Victorville in the desert on a tower going, I survived that. I did that. I'm capable. I think I could, I don't know if I could do worse, but I think I can get through whatever is coming my way.
But I hadn't thought about that. It is a fascinating sort of acting exercise, because you can't necessarily get lost in a scene or anything like that when there's just literally the two of you on the top of this pole and you've got to carry the film. And I mean, I got to imagine it was invigorating in its own right. And I mean, when audiences get to see this next week, it will be obviously invigorating. I'm going back myself just because I want to see it on a big screen.
Oh, that's awesome.
But my question for you, like, have you had a chance to see this on the big and on a large screen yet? And what was your reaction seeing it?
I was laid out on my chair with my palms sweating, just like exhausted. Ginny and Scott wanted to know what I thought, and I couldn't speak.
I've seen it twice now with two different audiences. Both had people that had not seen the film and did not know what was coming. And when you are watching it on a big screen in a dark theater with the energy of the people around you, it is one of the most immersive experiences I have ever had watching something, and I knew what was coming. And I saw people next to me physically on the edge of their seat, which I've always used that expression, but I've never seen anyone actually move to the edge of their seat before. And people are gasping and sweating, and like, it is just so immersive and so much fun to see the audience have the physical effects of this film on them. It is really exciting.
No, and you know what? I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, obviously it's such a simple premise, but once it sets you up and once you gets you there and then everything pivots, it's such a ride. And I mean, it's such a reminder of how immersive cinema can be. And I mean, especially these days, I think this is a great film to have out right now. And I mean, just congratulations to you both on the work. I can't wait for audiences to see it. And thank you again for the time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, I mean, obviously, man, just first off, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. I mean, congrats on the movie, man. I mean, I'll be honest. I was watching a fucking screener at home and it scared the crap out of me. Like, walk me through the origin of this concept on your end, because it's so simple, but I love it.
Yeah. No, it was that. I think myself and the writer, we both had a healthy fear of heights, I would say, and we were in a situation where we were filming on top of this big stadium for another movie, and it wasn't what we were filming on screen that was kind of exciting. It was the fact we're on this little thing and there was a big steep drop, and we're like, why does the body do this to you? And what is the fear of heights? Like, really looking at it and looking at the fears that we have, like the fear of sharks and all these other things. And as a concept of a movie, we kind of felt that people have explored it little by little and sequence by sequence, but no one's really done a full movie doing this and really using it as a kind of device to kind of ratchet up those tensions and build out that suspense. So it was an exciting challenge to try and do it and capture it and really kind of put people through that experience,
Now, I mean, tell me if this is true, but I mean, I heard you went really rugged on this one. No green screen or anything like that. You were literally on the top of a mountain shooting this sucker.
That's how you heard it right. Yeah, that was entirely on location, and it made all the difference. Like McGregor, the DP, he'd said to me early on, look, we just need to, like, we looked at the green screen thing, obviously, and we looked at like different and the best versions of that are kind of Mandalorian studios and things like this. But the reality is you just can't really fake it. And if you're going to fake it, you'd have a $50 to $100 million movie. So instead, we went the opposite way. We're like, okay, let's go the other direction, because no one's making that movie today, right? So it's go the other direction and get like a small team, small band together, get some like IMAX cameras and like climb up a mountain and do it for real. And then and I remember McGregor saying, look, we just finding the location is everything, because then we just have to essentially arrange the right time of day where our big light is in the right place, as in the sun, and film it and just capture it. And he was totally right. So we spent a huge amount of time driving around trying to find the right location, and in the end, yeah, when we ended up Shadow Mountain, this place, it was great, you know.
Now I've got to imagine casting on something like this is paramount as well, because you've got to find the right two actors who can sort of carry the movie, quite literally, because they're the only two people in it. But like, talk to me about finding the right pairing just to sort of get on top of this radio tower.
Yeah, I think it was with Ginny and Grace. Like I was lucky that I was allowed to kind of cast for the right parts, right? Because very often you don't. And another reason why kind of much bigger budgets kind of force you into economical kind of choices that you don't necessarily want for the movie. So it was the first time where producers said to me, let's cast the right people, find the right people for it. And with Ginny and Grace, like, it went through quite an exhaustive process, and it was, you know, they were very honest about the fear of filming and the way we were talking about filming it, and that washed away anyone who wasn't so honest. So there were certain actors who I met who were coming like, yeah, I'm fine with heights, and then I'd show them the kind of design and everything else and where we're filming. They're like, I think I'm okay, and you could tell they were not going to be okay. So with Ginny and Grace, they were honest about it and said it looks terrifying, but I am up for doing it. And then they did this chemistry read together, and it was like they've been friends forever. And it was, you know, it was great. And I immediately fell in love with them, and they're so good, so disciplined as well in terms of like the nuances of where they've got to go in the story and performance. It's very, you know, there's a lot in there, I think, especially given the concept of the movie. And so they were just incredible.
No, I mean, I've got to ask, man, as a storyteller in the visual medium, how do you make the bad guy in this basically empty space? Because that's
the challenge, isn't it?
You know?
Yeah. I think the bad guy, it is, and that's genuinely a thing that kept coming up. Like, can we do this or not? And that's what we got. Like, when we first like threw the idea around to like people we knew, that was when we got back up. People like, I don't think so. You're telling me the bad guy is going to be empty space? No way. But actually, if you dig a bit deeper, it's, you know, that the bad guy is obviously our fears of that and why we fear that, and the immediacy of, you know, you step the wrong way, it's obviously death, right? But kind of establishing that and building that bad guy is building up and understanding what the bad guy is part of that play, right? So I think it was a lot of kind of psychological exploration of what really makes you feel that way, and trying to kind of tell a story that brings you there. So it was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge, honestly. It really was.
Now, obviously, I heard from your actors that, you know, you were at the bottom of the tower on a bullhorn directing them. But I mean, did you ever get a chance to climb to the top of the tower yourself?
I climbed the top with them the first day we got there. I actually went there just before them. All three of us went up first, and I felt obliged to be the you know, ahead of them. And I'll be honest, it was terrifying. And the only reason I probably didn't break down and cry was because they were there behind me, and I felt a parental responsibility to kind of be, you know, I mean, if I mess this up and I show my true feelings, that they're going to break down. So we climbed up that together, and I remember I got there first. Grace got there second. She kind of burst into tears of relief, I think, because there was a lot of stress and build up to that moment. And we were all up there, and it was beautiful. Honestly, it's gorgeous location. You're like, there's times when like airplanes would go past under us, which is really weird. And it was just great. So I you know, they were going for it. And then I don't know if they mentioned, but like the way we ended up like directing it, because I was at the bottom, because I was a distance away, we ended up like, prior to going up there, we spent a day or two at my house in my yard. I kind of just did a little kind of wooden cutout of the platform with a pole, and we just like mapped out and worked out the story together. And that enabled, you know, again, it's so great. Like, we were able to kind of map where things were and how things would be. And then it was a case of, on the day, okay, we're doing this scene, like we worked it out. And it's, you know, and it gave us the basis and a baseline of how to go about playing it out, you know.
Do you think you could have done this story on a set? Because I mean, quite literally, you're roughing it up there and out there. Like, it feels like you needed the pain for this for it really to connect with the audience.
You know, in hindsight, like, there's times when you're up there and you'd be like, what have we done? We are fools for doing this, you know. And because it was really, really tough. But I agree. I think that's true that it would not have been the same movie had we done it the comfortable way. And an air-conditioned studio, like you just wouldn't. You just there's something about the fact that Ginny and Grace had been up there all day long in the blistering sun and performing you capture. It feeds into the performance of not just them, but how we film it and what we're doing, and even the awkwardness of kind of setting up a camera. I remember how awkward it was to get a camera in position at that height, and that weirdly, I think psychologically plays into the film too. Like you're aware of it in a weird way, off camera, and it injects into your experience watching it. Like you almost know it was awkward because it really was high. So there's little things like this that kind of feed. And I just don't believe we would have got the same movie had we been in the studio.
No, I mean, I'm curious because I'm a fan of some of the other stuff. Like I love Final Score, but I mean, it's like, again, that's a movie with a very simple idea, but it's masterful execution. Like, what is it about sort of the simpler ideas that translates so well when you're doing something like sort of in the action and thriller vein?
Well, I think, it's interesting you mentioned the movie because I kind of I think Jono and I, who wrote this one, we've done a lot of films where we've kind of been brought onto a film when it's already going, right? So it's often someone else's idea or someone else's script even, and you're kind of going in and you say, okay, what is this to me? And making the best version of that. And this was the first one where we kind of like came up with the idea first and kind of did it from the seed onward, and it was kind of a lot more fun to do because we were able to strip away and keep it simpler. Because I think concepts, obviously, and the conceptual ideas, the simpler you can make something, the more room you have to play with it, really, I think. And I think when you look at something that you want to be thrilling and really put the audience through an experience, you want to have kind of the room there to do it. And it was a challenge, honestly, to write. Like we questioned, I'm sure lots of people questioned this when they saw it, right? Like we first announced that like, is it really going to hold up that there's two people on top on this tiny like pizza-sized platform for the whole film? Like, what, how do you do that? That's the challenge that you kind of write yourself into, that you then have to try and write yourself out of. And I like the fun of that, and I think it's a very much I think we both enjoyed the challenge of that, and it's been part of the fun of the movie.
Well, I mean, I think that's the fun of it too as a viewer, because I mean, even for me, when I saw the pitch and I saw the poster, I'm like, really? This? And then I saw it and I'm like, holy shit, this works so well.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta ask, for you, I mean, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, is it those kind of surprises, being able to sort of generate sort of a genuine sort of reaction out of the audiences? Like, are those the kind of movies that got you into this business?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say yeah. When I look at it properly, I would say that films, whether they're genre or not, like there's a whole range of films and opinion, right? And we all have different tastes, and it's fine. Yeah. I think when we look at like stories being shared, I think it's an experience we want to feel, not necessarily just watch. And I think the things that through my life I've kind of loved have always made me feel deeply one way or another. And very often, like, it'll be something that I found, like the films I grew up with and I loved, I didn't realize at the time, but they had a really kind of big heart message that was kind of wrapped up in this kind of trauma or experience that it puts you through. And then that's what I really want to do with this. It's like have something that is exploring something I think is important and actually, reflective of really like having 2 years of crazy shit we just went through and everything. Trauma of that. It's kind of like there's an escapism element of this kind of thrill ride it puts you through, but at the core of it, it's actually something quite serious. And that's I think that's what I tried to do with it. It's like hide something important in this crazy adventure, so people can escape from today, go on this traumatic ride, get off the ride with something from it. So that's what I'd hope.
If we can take you back to the younger days with young Scott, can you boil it down to one movie that got you into this business?
It's funny you said someone else asked me this question, and weirdly, the one that genuinely comes to mind is RoboCop, the first RoboCop.
Love it. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's like that. It's such an impression on me, and I try and study it now and think about why. But what a fucking unbelievably good film, and I think it stuck with me. I watched it young as well. So me and my friends aged 10 and 11 watching kind of Murphy's hand being blown off was kind of a case in point of
course.
Wow. Yeah. It's but it's weird. I think a lot of filmmakers, it's you too, right? Like that we all,
it's a seminal moment for sure.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And I think, but yeah, that definitely, if I had to pick one that made that impression, it's probably that one.
No, I mean, I will admit, I'm going to make a point of going back to the theater this weekend because I want to see this film properly and experience it that
Yeah.
way. But this really feels like it's coming out at a perfect time. It's another one of those reminders of how experiential cinema can be. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you had to sort of one line fall to audience members out there, what would it be?
Yeah, I think if you enjoyed the cinematic experience of Top Gun, that's kind of like Disneyland, and this is the Six Flags version. Would be my
Top Gun on a budget. I like it.
yeah, I don't know the budget. It's like it's like the poor cousin, right? But it's a ride, right? And I think that's why I want to go to the cinema for sure.
Yeah.
And it's like I would dare people to go to the biggest screen possible, is what I would say.
Scott, brother, thanks for the ride and thanks for
Thank
the time
you.
today, man. I appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Get yourself to that big screen, my man. That's
Absolutely.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.